Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Case for Construction Culture podcast, balancing safety and profitability. I'm super excited to welcome Mandy Kime. Am I saying that right, Mandy Kime?
Yes, sir.
Never
That's
said your
it.
last name out loud, but Mandy Kime is with the AGC out in Washington, based in Seattle. And she's been the director of safety there, I believe, for 17 years, right, Mandy?
Yes.
At the AGC
Yes.
Contractors of Washington, and she's, in my mind, equally importantly, the co-author of The Culture of Care, a program I've known about for at least a year and a half, written in the Seattle market uh, as a response to some race-related hate crimes in construction. And if I'm not mistaken, Mandy, I'm just learning about now the specifics of what you're doing, and correct me, please. But you're aligning language and expectations for workers and employees for how we treat each other, for inclusion, and for workforce development and recruitment. Is that mostly accurate?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a pretty good summary. Nice job.
Awesome. And Mandy's not only fresh off the road, she got the memo on what to wear today. Mandy,
Yay.
I think you gave those out to your staff or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Merry Christmas to my team, but I had to get one too.
So that's a great color on you, and it matches your hair, which I
Thanks.
love.
Yeah.
So we're here talking about culture, communication. We're talking about safety, and you are all about it, Mandy. Seriously, of all the many people that I'm connected to, you're one of my favorites because I think you articulate the care part, the people part, without forgetting the safety part and all the other challenges that go with that. You're really knowledgeable in the industry, and I really appreciate that. So I want to start
Thanks.
out asking you, maybe in addition to all the speaking that you do, I know you just came off the road from a bunch of speeches around the country. What are you most excited about with your safety work, either in Washington or around the country where you do a lot of speaking? What are you most excited about? What's got you buzzing at this point in the year?
I have to say, I absolutely love what I get to do. And I jokingly said for years that I really got into safety because I thought it would be maybe an easy gig, right? People don't intend to wake up in the morning and go to work and get hurt. So I was thinking, this might be actually fairly easy. Um, but I have learned that the real value and the thing that keeps me sparked and alive in this line of work is not just the day-to-day physical protection, but protecting the entire worker, helping them live full, robust lives, helping them feel happy and healthy in their physical self, but also in their mental and emotional self in the workplace, which obviously lends itself to them living full and robust lives, but also feeling good about the work that they do in our industry and feeling like they're valued. And so that is the most exciting part of what I get to do. And it's certainly a far cry from a lot of years of reading regulations and trying to interpret standards and make that into job place, magic. Now I get to talk to people about human issues, and that's pretty awesome.
And amen to that. The whole person, the robust whole person. I love your language there, protecting the entire worker. And you and I originally connected around some of the mental health suicide stuff, which we both know is a real and serious danger in construction and in other trades. But
Yeah.
you and I both, any quick comment on any work you're doing with that, Mandy, or a thought on that? I know that is
Yeah.
so important.
I mean, probably one of the points of pride of my career is finishing my master's degree and writing my thesis on mental health and suicide prevention interventions for construction. Since that time, I've had the wonderful opportunity to help lead our national task force. The task force is doing great things. We're cranking out supervisor training. We're creating this really comprehensive website full of free and open source materials for employers to use to help get ahead of this mental health and substance use disorder crisis for our industry. And that is, it's a point of pride, but also now because I'm so aware of the statistics, it's it's my passion project. It is my conviction that I need to be a part of helping solve this problem. And I feel uniquely poised to do so.
I think you are absolutely 100%. And the fact that you just did the keynote at the National AGC meeting in Florida is amazing.
It's
That's
fun.
amazing. Little
It's a
story
lot of
there.
fun.
I know you were called upon to do it, I think at the last minute,
Yes.
and you were scheduled for other things, but you did it, right? How did
Yep.
that go?
It went phenomenally well. And again, it gave me a great opportunity to give a shout out to the good work of our task force, my co-chair, Brandon Anderson, who's with the AGC Missouri chapter, and just all of the work that we've really put in over the last handful of years seems to be coming to fruition at the same time that we have audiences with an appetite to hear about this. And so that feels like a really strong connection, because sometimes you're developing content or ideas and you don't yet have the audience for it. Right now, we have an audience that is eager for more information throughout the country, and our task force at AGC of America is answering the call.
That is beautifully put. The audience has the appetite. That is so true. And it has not always been the case, as in
Yeah.
your work and some of my work. I feel like
Mhm.
a missionary in a foreign land more than half the time.
Yeah.
It's wonderful when they say, yes, we want what you have, Mandy. Give it to
Yes.
us. We're hungry.
Yeah. It's
We
so it's so good.
we need it. So
Yeah.
that's a beautiful setup, and I know you've worked long and hard to get there. So, which brings me to another question, because I know it's not all roses, and I know you've hoed a lot of soil to get to the garden you're in today. What are some of the challenges you see in your garden of construction and full person well-being? What are the challenges that you see either in Washington, or I don't know what level you want to speak on. I don't, it doesn't matter to me, but as you think about where you put your main energy this year, what are some of your big challenges that you see, Mandy?
I think one challenge that we have is that as we are seeing more attention being paid to the subject of total worker health, worker mental well-being, prevention of substance use disorder, it does seem at times like it's kind of the shiny object, and some people are chasing it with dollar signs in their eyes or ego in their eyes, and they're just like, "Oh, I'm going to go jump into this pool and I'm going to, I'm going to make money off of this, or I'm going to gain acclaim from this work." And so there has been some challenge in that regard that, there's room for a lot of people to be doing this work and making impact, but we as an industry need people that are coming with solutions, not just stories. We need people that are committed to action over awareness. So let's do some things. Let's not just talk about the fact that we have a problem. Let's do some things. Let's get upstream of the crisis. Let's equip our workforce with tools and skills for healthy coping and resilience. My keynote session just this last week was on care for the caregivers. So we're out here asking supervisors and safety professionals to care about people's well-being. But are we caring for their well-being as we're making these demands of them? And are they properly equipped to take care of others while also respecting their own psychological safety? And so it's a challenge, but I think it's one that we're starting to find solutions to, in the sense that the more work we do, the more tools and resources and training we produce through the task force nationally, we're able to then really backfill some of those gaps that I just, kind of pointed out, right? We don't have enough upstream intervention. We have a lot of people talking about awareness, but they're not telling the rest of the story. It's great to raise awareness, but if you empower and impassion someone that we have a problem and you don't equip them with the tools or safe language or safe, next steps, then they're impassioned, but they're doing nothing. They understand we have a problem, but they're doing nothing. And that doesn't help us solve the problem.
What are a couple things people are doing, Mandy, that you think are creative or cutting edge or proving to be useful, or is it too early to tell?
I think some of the great things that are being done in the industry are um, honing in on some of the sources of worker distress. So, our task force hosts forums, and we've been talking about, financial literacy and financial planning that can be a stressor to people that can lead to despair. So why not invest in some tools and resources? And so we're seeing contractors have apps and support and tools through their employee assistance program or other things that are helping with stuff like financial literacy or other issues, relationships, communication, those kinds of things. Another area that we're seeing a lot of effort on the part of employers is a peer support model. So really surrounding our workforce with people who are not only educated but prepared to respond in the event of a crisis. They're aware of maybe what some signs and symptoms are. They're aware of how to de-escalate, but they're also aware of how to create a work environment and a culture that is supportive of people that might be struggling, Again, back to safe language, back to, asking folks how they're doing and planting your feet and waiting for the response. Those are critical factors, right? And those are real human to human aspects. But peer support, you think about it, we spend so much time with the people that we work with,
Mhm.
so incredibly much time with the people that we work with, that they are honestly at times the best to be able to see when someone might be struggling. But we gotta treat them with the dignity that you are a peer responder, you are a peer support person, and you need support too. If you're supporting others, you need support. That's period. So how do we build that network? And a lot of that comes from human connection.
And you can do this in the tough guy industries. This is happening. This is
It is
going on.
it
It's a
is
different world.
absolutely
It's
happening.
it's
It is
happening.
happening.
Do you or your colleagues get pushback on some of this? Mandy, don't give me this care business. I got to get work done. I'm tired of this.
Hey,
Sick of
I'm gonna
this. What are you talking about? I'm just trying to get work done.
I'm going to tell you right now that I had a high nervousness when I first started sharing the findings from my master's thesis. I thought, oh, there's no way. Um, but the reality is, and I've come to fully understand and appreciate that the hearts of our construction workforce, they want to do right things. They want to look out for one another. They want to have that sense of family and community and brotherhood, sisterhood, right? They want that. Um, and the reason why some of them weren't engaging wasn't because they didn't want to look out for their fellow craft worker. It was because they didn't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. So all we're doing is giving them tools and confidence to be the one to help somebody out. I love those people. I love the dissenters of conversations about mental health. We kind of affectionately call them the crusty dusties of our industry, where they're a little bit more resistant to the warm fuzzy stuff and some of this,
Yeah,
newer stuff. But honestly, those individuals are the most crucial part of the conversation
they are.
because everyone on the job site looks to them. Everyone waits and reads their response before they respond. So if we can empower those individuals, if we can connect with those people and help them understand that how they lead and how they communicate makes worlds of impact, we're taking the whole thing by storm. Because if
I
that
love it.
if that crusty dusty is like, oh yeah, I care about people's mental well-being. I care that we don't have substance use disorder. Then everybody else is like, well, if he's okay with it.
I'm okay with it. How do you get to the crusty dusties, man? I know some of these guys, Mandy. I've been in the
Yeah.
construction world 23 years in different capacities than you, but I can't always get to these. I know who you're talking about, and how do you reach them? I mean, you have quite an approach, and you have a
Mhm.
special gift. I can see it, I can feel it, even though I've just
Thanks.
known you for about a year. But how does somebody less skilled than you get to a crusty dusty?
I feel like my magic recipe, and I'll tell you, I learned this from working with electricians. Electricians early in my career, I worked for an electrical contractor and I had a lot of them challenge me because I was a young female in the industry. And I realized that I was never going to outsmart them. I wasn't going to bully them into doing what I needed them to do. I wasn't going to win them over with control.
Mhm.
So how do you lead for that? The way that you lead with that is you start by having a healthy respect of the work that those individuals do and you acknowledge the work that they're doing. Say, hey, I understand you've been in this industry for 30 years. And I understand that this isn't always the way things have been done, but I need you to understand that your role in all of this conversation is so pivotal that we need you on board. I think that a lot of the work that we did with culture of care is also acknowledging that at times we have vilified entire groups of people in our effort to make inclusion and belonging a thing. And so rather than vilifying people and saying, well, you're wrong just because of the color of your skin, or you're wrong just because of whatever demographic you fall in,
Mhm.
um, that rather you flip that and you say, we are trying to do good work here. Good work that's going to mean that you go home safe. Good work that means that um, that you feel seen and heard and valued. But in that process, we need you to be a voice of influence. And I think that the other part of that approach is approaching them with a healthy curiosity. Um, and being able to ask why and what their perspective is and where they're coming from. Because if you can understand that, then it makes the sales pitch a lot easier, right? If they're resistant because they're afraid they're going to get in trouble for saying the wrong thing, or they're resistant because they feel like certain people are getting a more fair shake than them, those are issues you can then address with them and you can solve the problem. It's when we come out with this like iron fist, like I was sitting in an ivory tower corner office and I decided this is how things are going to be, and you're going to go make that happen on the job. That's a recipe for disaster because they don't understand your why or your intent and you don't understand theirs. So in order to bring the crusty dusties, my faves, along, you got to understand them, but you also have to respect them, and you have to understand the why of where their pain points are and help them overcome them.
Boy, it sounds like awesome communication 101 on one level, Mandy. This isn't rocket science, but I am noticing you're doing a few things that are interesting. You're showing respect for their work, and meaning you're recognizing them as veterans, senior workers. You're sort of appealing, I would say, to their rank and their status, right? And then you're having healthy curiosity, why, and truly wanting to understand. But you know what? I think the big thing you do really well, Mandy, you love them. And
Yeah.
you, the first thing you said, I love the crusty dusties.
Yeah.
And I think it may be as simple as that, Mandy. Some people say it comes down to love and fear. We're either expanding with love and welcoming and including, or we're shrinking up and shriveling and tightening with fear. And I
Yep.
think you have a special gift and courage, frankly. Thank you for the courage you've shown to go into situations as a younger woman years ago in a construction world, and that demonstrates courage. But I think more than anything, it demonstrates just love, care, showing love and care for people. It may be as simple as that on some level.
Yes,
I
yeah.
don't know what you think of that.
You're you're dead on the money, my friend.
Yeah.
I try to approach individuals with these subjects of inclusion and belongingness and mental health and substance use disorder prevention. All of them are very, they can feel nebulous, they can feel overwhelming, they can
Mhm.
feel like, oh, this is the newfangled thing. But at its core, it's all about treating human beings like human beings instead of like robots, and
Yeah.
connecting with the commonality that we have with people instead of looking for the differences. And you can always find differences, they're always going to exist, but you can also find those common ground too. It's just as easy, same amount of work. You're just choosing which lane you're going to be in.
Yeah. Yes. I love it. It's simple, and persuading people to do it or believe in it or invest in it is not always simple. And there's still, even though there is an appetite and a hunger, there's also plenty of resistance or plenty of people that don't make the time for it or have the time for it. And we've both used the word culture here several times. Um, what's your understanding of, what is this thing, culture? It's a word that a lot of us are using for the last several years. What is culture in context of safety, whether it's physical safety or psychological safety or mental health awareness safety? What the heck is this culture thing, Mandy?
I mean, I think Um, I do an exercise in one of my culture leadership trainings where I ask the room to break up into teams and pick one word that defines culture. And never in the history of ever, I've done this dozens of times, have I had a group that ends up with all the same words. And I think it's so important that we acknowledge that words are just that, they're words. And the word culture invokes a certain picture in Tom Esch's mind, and it invokes a different picture in Mandy Kime's mind, and so on and so forth. So to me, when I hear the word culture, what I am envisioning is the way human beings feel connected and the way they feel understood, or the way that they feel welcomed or not welcomed in a particular environment. And the reality is, even within the same company, the culture can be different from job site to job site or work team to work team, depending on so many different factors, right? It can be dependent on schedule and craziness and stress in a moment where they might be a high functioning team and have a great flow and culture one day, but then now all of a sudden we're under the gun. And because of how that is going, our culture is going to shift. So it can change moment to moment. It can change based on our physical geographical location. It can change based off of who's on the team. But it really is about how that group of human beings stay connected and how they move through the work process together.
I love it. I love it. I love your understanding that culture can, there's so many nuances to it, and it can be different from job site to job site or even day to day. I also think many companies have an overarching, you know, um, kind of culture, and the best definition that I think I've heard is it's the way things are around here. I think that is pretty good, and it does change day to day, of course, but also there's, you know, like just like you, I'm in touch with lots of different companies. There's a different feel, and you use the word feel there several times. I like that word. Not everybody is going to love that word, Mandy. You know that. But it is, to me, it is the way I feel when I walk in the front door, how the person at the desk greets me or doesn't greet me, how they welcome me in their office or back in the shop. There is a certain feel, there's a certain vibe, I would say, to many companies. And I think you'd agree with that. But also there's diversity within that vibe, right? Is what I
Yeah.
hear you saying, right?
Well, and it's so important to acknowledge that the culture impacts the outcome, because
Yes.
you think about
Yes.
how you walk into a space to perform work or to be a customer, even at a store, how you walk into a space and how you feel about that space impacts so many things about your performance and your output, which then impacts the outcome. Even though culture feels like this weird nebulous thing, if you're on the money and you're in that sweet spot, you have a lot of people that are showing up as their whole authentic selves, and they're able to put away some of that, protective factor that they need to do to protect themselves, and they're able to just show up and do the work, and not be distracted by all those feelings again, right?
Absolutely. And it affects safety outcomes, which brings me to my next question. Um, we all know in the business you and I are in that safety is shaped by the culture, and that culture is in part formed by the decisions, the behaviors of the founders, the leaders, the owners, and then the key people within the company, what they allow, what they don't allow. What sort of training, Mandy, do you and your other safety people at the AGC there, what kind of training do you have in influencing safety outcomes? Um, if any, what kind of training does somebody need to be influential in in both understanding culture and then influencing the safety outcomes that are a direct result of the culture?
I think that that is an area that definitely needs further development, especially in construction. If you talk to anyone in a leadership position in construction, invariably, almost every one of them ended up in a leadership position because of one or of two things. They got a college degree and they were inserted into a leadership position upon hire, or there was someone who was very good with their tools and very good at accomplishing big jobs. And so we said, hey, you're great at this, so we think you should lead other people doing this. Here's some keys and a cell phone and a pickup truck. Go forth and lead. And we didn't at any point go like, hey, how are you with people? Right?
Yeah, we didn't.
In either one of those scenarios, you don't typically go through college and get a leadership and communication degree and get plopped into construction. Same as, you end up being given a leadership role in construction because of being good at other roles in construction. There's not a lot of professional development with regard to human interaction and leading people. Some people have an innate ability to lead others and to communicate well, and others don't. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of growth in that regard, but there's still room for improvement in our industry for sure. AGC through our task force is coming up with supervisor training that will help with some of this. We have care leadership training. There's a number of different leadership development programs that exist, but it also takes an appetite on the part of the person being trained to actually want to be a good leader and not just go through the motions. You can
That
have a lot of certificates and still be a crappy leader.
that's true. It takes the person has to be motivated to want to learn, and that's not always there. The owners and leaders might say, "Yes, we need more of that. Let's do a 6-week course." Yes, and you're going to
Yeah.
get some excited, and you're going to get some kind of, well, we'll see, and then you're going to get
Mhm.
some resistors, right? That's what I've
Absolutely.
always seen. So yeah, I agree. We need more investment, and I see it happening, and it's exciting to me because I'm also a part of that work. So I have at least one last question, unless you have one for me, and that's about, do you have a short story about how you've initiated a culture change effort or created? I mean, you've created a movement with the culture of care, I think, and in addition to a whole curriculum. Anything that you've attempted to change in the space of safety or culture where those two meet that was successful, or maybe was a failure, didn't go well? I always love the didn't go well stories. You have any of those, Mandy?
Well, I've got some didn't go wells from early in my career, and I will
Either
say,
either one.
yeah, I'm gonna go with it didn't go well.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Thought you were going to do that.
Early in my career working for the electrical contractor, like I said, I got challenged a lot. And I remember a particular individual who shall remain nameless,
Yes.
but he really challenged me because I came out to a job site to try to help influence some energized electrical work. And I didn't necessarily know the codes and standards like the back of my hand, but what I knew was that what we were doing wasn't really meeting the base minimum for safety performance. And I came out to have that conversation with him, and he squared off toe to toe with me, and he said, "Listen, little girl, I have been an electrician longer than you've been alive, and you don't get to come into my space and tell me how to do my job." And I remember in that moment with my hands in my pockets, feeling completely dejected. I just remember feeling panic, Like nobody prepared me for this as a early 20s female working in construction. Nobody said, "Hey, they're going to be people that yell at you for trying to protect them." And I remember being really dejected. I remember feeling like I failed and leaving that conversation with tears. And I didn't, in that moment, plant my feet and just say, "Hey, let's work this out." I bolted. Um, but what I learned from that is to show up more prepared, to lead these kinds of conversations with curiosity, with an understanding of how I'm going to learn at the same time that I'm going to hopefully impart knowledge or help them be safer. And that if nothing else, if I show him or anyone on the job that I am here because I care and that my role is to make your life easier and my role is to take as much work out of compliance as humanly possible so that you can get back to the job that you do that you get paid to do, instead of coming out there like some caped crusader of safety that I'm going to save him from himself. And so that was a pivotal moment in my career. It was a failure in the moment. It didn't go well in the moment. But darn it, it taught me a lot, taught me a whole lot. And I carry that with me to this day.
I can tell you do because you've used the phrase "plant my feet" twice in this little interview, and it's what a painful gift this gentleman gave you by calling you that little girl that he's been working longer than you've been alive. I feel the pain in that and the tears. Oh, yeah, I've been close to many things like that, Mandy.
Yep.
Uh, that's a powerful story. Sounds like that one went in really deep, and you have learned
Mhm.
to plant your feet. Maybe that's a topic for another podcast. I, uh, any final comments from you, Mandy, as we're wrapping this up? It's such an interesting conversation to me.
Um, I guess I would just close with, first of all, thank you for having me, and second of all, thank you for the work that you're doing.
You're
I think
welcome.
that there's a lot of room in our industry for folks who are trying um, to impact culture and to impact um, the day-to-day operations and moreover the day-to-day feeling of well-being and belongingness that our workforce needs to have in order to continue to want to do this work, right? In construction, we are competing with tech and all these other things that an individual might choose as their career path. So people like you and myself that are out here trying to make it a safer place to work, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally, psychologically, it's critical work right now. We're in important times, and it's a privilege to get to share this industry and this space with people like you that are also, well-intentioned and working really hard to make a difference. So it's great, and I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Mandy, and I want to read your thesis on the mental health, suicide prevention, and construction. Is there a way that I or anyone listening can get that?
I will send you a link, my friend, and you
There's
can
there's a
devour all
link.
50 pages.
There's a link, and how can people connect to Mandy Kime?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to follow me there. I post a lot of great content. And then you can go to the AGC of America website, which is agc.org, and click on initiatives, safety and health, and then mental health. And you can access all of our free resources there.
Awesome. Very helpful. Mandy, thank you again. Blessings
Thanks,
on your
Tom.
work. We'll see you
Thanks,
again
you too.
soon. Bye bye.